Let's talk about the New York Yankees, a team that is always up there in payroll, but has not made the World Series since 2009, which they've last won it, obviously. They have made the playoffs 7 times in the last 10 seasons. That's very good, but they can't seem to get over the hump. So they've made the playoffs 7 times in that span, but have not had a World Series appearance since 2009, as I mentioned before. So there's a lot of current free agents for this team, a lot of big decisions to be made. So first, let's start with the current Yankee free agents. We start with Edwin Encarnacion, who they already announced are not picking up his option for next year, so he'll be a free agent, free to go anywhere he wants. He probably won't be back with this team, unfortunately. Had a very rough championship series, but I like him as a player. I mean, it sucks that he really had a really rough playoffs. I mean, the first 2 games in the playoffs, he was good, but outside of that, not so good for Encarnacion. Aroldis Chapman, he wants a new contract. He opted out. I personally would give it to him. I understand he's in his lower 30s now. He probably won't be throwing 102 miles per hour for much longer, but at the same time, he's one of the most reliable closers in baseball. It's hard to find that. He was AL Reliever of the Year. I personally thought Liam Hendricks of the Athletics should have got it, but it is what it is. But still, one of the most reliable closers in baseball. They don't grow on trees, so I would take him. Didi Gregorius, I mean, it makes sense to bring him back because he's one of the few left-handed batters in this lineup. Very right-handed heavy with LeMahieu, Torres, Judge, Stanton, Sanchez, Andujar when he comes back, or There's a lot of right-handed hitters in this lineup. The short right field porch. It makes sense to have a lefty who plays shortstop especially, but if you don't bring him back, you can also argue that it just opens up a lot more. You could put Gleyber Torres at his natural position at shortstop. You can put LeMahieu back at second base where he used to win Gold Gloves. You can have a healthy Luke Voit at first base. Maybe you can experiment Giancarlo Stanton at first base if you wanted to. So there's a lot of things. It opens up a lot of options if Didi were to, be off this team next year. And maybe you can, use his money to pay for an ace. So you never know. CC Sabathia's retired. I thank him for his Yankee service, but obviously he won't be back next year. Dellin Betances is a tough one. I mean, obviously he was one of the best relievers in baseball for a long time. Very rough year last year with the injuries. Came back for like 1 or 2 games, partially tore his Achilles. I think he'll come back on a 1-year prove-it deal, whether it's with the Yankees or somebody else. I hope it's with the Yankees, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I think a 1-year, $8 to $10 million deal is not the worst thing for a guy like Betances. Then next offseason he can get the big contract, so we'll see what happens with him. Brett Gardner is always a tough one, but the Yankees don't have much behind him. I mean, Mike Tauchman was a nice player last year, but do you really trust Mike Tauchman to be your starting left fielder for 162 games next year? I don't know, but same thing. I mean, Clint Frazier, good hitter. Don't trust him much in the field, but he's there as well, so maybe they want to give Frazier a full shot. I'm really not sure what's going to happen with him. Gardner's 36 years old. I mean, if they want to bring him back for 1 more year, that's fine by me, but later in this video, I'll tell you guys a free agent left fielder that I'm very interested in, so I'd rather have someone else over Brett Gardner, but if the Yankees bring him back, I won't be mad about it. Austin Romine, I feel like he'd want to go somewhere else because he's definitely capable of starting on other teams. I mean, the Yankees, lucky for them, have one of the better catchers in baseball offensively in Gary Sanchez, so Austin Romine does not play too much. I feel like he can start on some other teams or be in like a 50-50 split with somebody else, so maybe he goes to a team that needs a catcher. There's a lot of them in baseball. I mean, think about teams like the Padres probably need one. I know Austin Hedges is a good defensive catcher, but there's a bunch of teams. I can't even think of them right now, but there's not many great catchers in baseball, as we know, so I feel like Romine could start anywhere else, basically. There's probably like 5 to 7 teams that would take him. They still have Kyle Higashioka. I can't really pronounce his name. Higashioka, the backup catcher who backs up Romine. He came up with the Yankees at some points last year. He was pretty good, I guess, so he'd be the backup catcher. And then Cameron Maybin, I feel like he's probably not going to be back with the Yankees next year, but he probably earned a contract somewhere else next year, so I'm happy for him in that standard, or that regard I should say. So at least he has that going for him, but I don't think Maybin's coming back with the Yankees next year. So now let's get on to the regular free agents and around the MLB and who the Yankees might pick up from some other teams. So the obvious one is Garrett Cole. There will be a crazy bidding war for this guy. He's most likely going to be bid on by the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Angels, probably the Astros even. He'll be 29 next year, which is, sometimes concerning because of durability issues and velocity. I think 3 years ago, Cole missed like probably 10 to 12 starts with an injury, so you never know with some of these guys, and Cole's a guy who can hit 100 miles per hour, so when these pitchers lose their velocity, you never know what's going to happen. They kind of have to like reinvent themselves in a way, so that shouldn't be a concern yet, but if you sign him for like a 7-8 year 8-year deal, it's probably halfway through the contract when he reaches like 33, 34 years old and starts to lose his velocity. Is he going to be the same pitcher? And of course, staying healthy is a big thing as well. But the Yankees are in a spot where they should be all in. This is a roster that can win the World Series now. They're one ace away in a lot of people's opinions from winning the World Series or possibly being in the World Series. So I feel like going in for a guy like Garrett Cole right now is probably what the Yankees have to do. If they miss out on him, or even Steven Strasburg, who might be a free agent as well, if they miss out on those guys, there are some like B-level pitchers they can go for. So, of course, Madison Bumgarner, who I would say used to be an A pitcher, but he's only 30 years old. I mean, he hasn't been as good lately as he used to be, but still, he's a pretty good pitcher for the most part. Cole Hamels, who's not as good as Bumgarner, but still a veteran lefty, might be able to help his rotation. I mean, this might be Jay Happ all over again, but still, there's younger guys who are inconsistent, like Zach Wheeler, Jake Odorizzi, guys like that. So, I don't know what they want to do with pitching. I mean, I think the main guy they want to go for is Cole. Every Yankee fan wants the guy, so hopefully that's what they do, but we'll see exactly what happens. And, of course, there's some other guys, but, of course, we want the ace, obviously, in Garrett Cole. So, if the Yankees decide to move on from Brett Gardner, I said I wanted to add a guy in free agency that I liked a lot, and that guy is Corey Dickerson, who I want to compete with Mike Tauchman and Clint Frazier for left field. Dickerson is 30 years old, left-handed batter with a very nice swing, had a low-key really good 2019, did not have many plate appearances, had 260 plate appearances between the Pirates and the Phillies. I think he missed like the first couple months due to injury, so that's probably why. He was in a platoon role, I think, with the Phillies as well, so he hit .304 with 12 homers and almost 60 RBIs in only 260 plate appearances. So he's a good player. He's a really good hitter. Honestly, don't know how his fielding is, but he can't be that bad. So hitting-wise, I like Corey Dickerson a lot. So we'll see what the Yankees do, exactly who they want to target for left field if they don't bring Gardner back. But I personally believe that Corey Dickerson's a good option for the Yankees. So maybe they add some other pitching depth, whether it's a reliever or another extra body at starter. We'll see what happens. Maybe a guy like Jake Diekman, who's a lefty. The Yankees don't have too many lefty relievers. I mean, they have Chapman, they have Zach Britton, I believe. They have some like middle relievers who are lefties, but outside of that, they don't have too many like middle, back end guys that are left-handed pitchers. So Jake Diekman's an average reliever, but I think bringing a guy like him could definitely help this bullpen if they need some extra innings. Another guy that I saw is Cody Allen, who used to be a closer for the Indians, had a very rough year for the Angels last year, had like a 6 ERA, didn't have too many appearances, but I think he was like injured as well. So I think they can get him on like a 1-year deal maybe and see what he can do, maybe a prove-it type deal, kind of like Betances. So maybe if Betances were to walk, they can get a guy like Cody Allen can come in and, maybe find his old self like he used to pitch in Cleveland. I think that might be a good option for them, so we'll see what happens with that. There's a couple starters they can, quote-unquote, kick the tires on. There's a guy, Alex Wood, who pitches for Cincinnati last year. He used to pitch for the Dodgers. He used to pitch for the Braves in the beginning of his career. He's a really good left-handed pitcher, just has to stay healthy. That's his biggest issue. And, of course, the Mariners legend, Felix Hernandez, is not going to go back to Seattle this year, so maybe they bring him. I mean, I really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's been a lot of Felix Hernandez rumors to the Yankees when he was in his prime, but it never happened. He got a lot of money from Seattle, but now they're letting him go after his contract's over. So maybe they bring in Felix Hernandez. Maybe he can just find himself and just find a different way to pitch. I think Felix Hernandez is going to have a very similar career to Anibal Sanchez. So when Anibal Sanchez, his last couple years in Detroit, seemed like he was completely done, had nothing left, but then just came back and reinvented himself, and obviously was on the World Series Nationals this year. So I think Felix Hernandez could have a very similar career, but we'll see what happens in the future with him. So that's my dream scenario, and it's not too many moves, obviously. I mean, Garrett Cole's the big one, obviously. Corey Dickerson or Brett Gardner, I'll take either of them. Maybe you add some bullpen arms like a Cody Allen, a Jake Diekman, guys like that, and then maybe you add an Alex Wood or Felix Hernandez to help the rotation. I mean, there's a lot of guys in the rotation, obviously. Let's go over the complete depth chart. I just made a list for you guys here. So at catcher, Gary Sanchez, Hideyoshi Oka. First base would be Luke Voigt, Mike Ford. Second base, LeMahieu, Tyler Wade. Shortstop is Gleyber Torres, Tyler Wade. Then you have at third base, Gio Urshela and Miguel Andujar. I don't know which one's going to start. That's going to be very interesting. I'm still concerned with Andujar's defense. I think Andujar's a better hitter than Urshela, but Urshela might be a better all-around player. So really, you have to factor defense in at third base especially. We'll see what happens with that. Left field for me would be Corey Dickerson Anderson, followed by Mike Tauchman. Center field, we have Aaron Hicks, who I didn't want to sign to an extension, but they did. Backing him up would be Clint Frazier, maybe Jacoby Ellsbury if he ever comes back. I'm not really counting on it. That's why I did not put him, but Clint Frazier as the starting center fielder does not sit right with me, but I really don't know who else they would put there. Maybe that's a spot for Brett Gardner to play center field for this team. I really don't know, honestly. And then right field is Judge and Stanton, but as you can see, I have Stanton playing designated hitter most of the time, so the Yankees experimented with Stanton a lot in left field the last couple of years, and he's been injured a lot. I think the Yankees want to keep him on the field as much as possible, obviously, and I think they're going to try and DH Stanton as much as they can, so I think that's going to be his primary position next year. The starting rotation here on the right side would be Garrett Cole, Masahiro Tanaka, James Paxton, Luis Severino, Domingo Germán. That's 5 people right there, but you also add in Jordan Montgomery coming back from injury, and then maybe a Felix Hernandez or Alex Wood, as I said before. The bullpen would be Aroldis Chapman, you have Zach Britton, Tommy Kahnle, Adam Ottavino, Chad Green, maybe a Cody Allen, Dellin Betances, and as I said before, designated hitter Giancarlo Stanton. So that's my whole dream scenario for the Yankees. It's not too crazy. I think it could happen, but we will see what Brian Cashman does this offseason. I want this team to be in the World Series once again. I miss it. It's been a long time, and as a Yankees fan, of course, I want to see it happen. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think the Yankees should do this offseason, and I'll talk to you guys next time.